Good morning. You are listening to Florida Commercial Real Estate Radio. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. I will also have a co-host, Jerry Anderson, CCIM from Sperry Van Ness Commercial Real Estate Advisors in Palm Beach County, Florida, will be calling in today. Through the power of the Internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on svn.com, as Sperry Van Ness Commercial Real Estate Advisors are the sponsors of this program. Additionally, the show will be posted on youtube.com. We're going to be talking about commercial real estate, different commercial real estate markets across the state of Florida. We get a lot of topics today, and I wonder if our co-host is on. Jerry, are you with us?
Good morning, Doug. Yes, sir, I am.
Well, great, wonderful. And Jerry, for our listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you will.
Well, thank you. I am definitely giddy this morning over this jobs report. My name is Jerry Anderson. I'm the master licensee here in the state of Florida for Sperry Van Ness Commercial Real Estate. And what that means is we have about 20 offices around the state that I'm responsible for, and you're going to hear from a couple of those folks today. But I've been in the commercial real estate industry quite a while, and as you look at the video, you see my bio there. Been doing this for a little while, have gray hair, as this real estate market is like a roller coaster. But boy, are we experiencing a good one right now, Doug.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. And tell us a little bit more about Sperry Van Ness, if you will.
Certainly. Sperry Van Ness is a commercial real estate firm that focuses on commercial real estate leasing, commercial real estate ownership. We work with owners, we work with landlords, we work with tenants, we work with buyers, we work with sellers. Our job is to really help the practitioner, the owner of investment real estate or otherwise user real estate if they use it for their own purpose in their business, to really maximize their revenue from their real estate, whether it's purchased as an investment or purchased for something that they use. So we've been around since 1987, started as a Southern California company and expanded east starting in the year 2000. We sit with about 180 markets, 150-some licensees around the country with close to 1,000 advisors.
Wow.
Always ranked in the top 10 of commercial real estate firms in the world, depending on who you watch and who's doing the ranking, but we're always right up there in the top 10.
Well, you are in charge of the Florida operation, and if I can, I'm going to talk about those different markets and where you have advisors, starting in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, Jupiter, Melbourne, New Smyrna Beach, Orlando, Winter Park, Lake Mary, Ocala, St. Augustine, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Destin, Panama City, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Fort Myers, and Naples. You've got it all spread out, and it's great. But let's go to our first caller if we can. Hold on here. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Doug. Good morning. Bartow McDonald.
Well, Bartow, great to talk to you again. It's been a while since, I think, February when you were on the radio with me back in the Sperry Van Ness annual meeting. But Jerry is with us. Jerry, can you welcome Bartow, please?
Certainly can. Bartow, good morning, sir. I bet you're as giddy as I am about this job report that came out. I'm going to question you on that in a little bit once we sort of figure out who you are and where you are for our listeners. Yes, it's good to have you on the air, Bartow. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jerry. Great to be with you guys.
Well, Bartow, for our listeners, where are you from? What's your background? How did you get into commercial real estate, if I can ask?
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm a Florida guy and grew up in Jacksonville. Graduated from a little university just to the north of Ocala in Gainesville, and went to work in the manufacturing industry right out of school and spent a number of years there. Started a few companies and then was recruited into the commercial real estate business. So these days I love working on office, industrial, and land deals in Ocala and Central Florida.
Hey, Doug, that little school he's referring to in Gainesville, he's a Florida Gator through and through. He has a Bachelor of Science and a Master's degree from the University of Florida.
I could hear it and I could figure it out. That little school. What is the attendance up there now? It's big school.
It is. I think it's well north of 50,000, but it's always great to be a Florida Gator.
Absolutely. Great. I think I want to talk to you a little bit about number one, Ocala. What kind of market is that in regards to commercial, if you would?
Well, Doug, for some reason, we kind of tend to think it's the center of the universe. I think for everybody else on the planet, Ocala is a tertiary market that continues to kind of grow in importance to distribution relative to people wanting to do business in the state of Florida. We're about an hour from each coast, and CEOs that I speak with often comment that they like how we're buffered from hurricanes and tropical storms, and how we're literally right off I-75, and we have major rail lines running through our community. And so I think as our economy continues to rebound, Ocala will be popping up on a lot of people's radar.
Well, that's good. And Jerry, why don't you take over from here? I know you want to talk about the economy and how that affects commercial, and I guess my question on our listeners is it a good time to buy commercial real estate right now?
Well, I think you're going to hear some of that from Bartow, and the reason I've made reference this morning on our show to the jobs report, I don't want to date the show, but we're sitting here at May 3rd. The job report came out today, 165,000 new jobs added to the economy, 7.4% employment rate, so it is headed the right direction. And as there's a couple of taglines in our commercial real estate industry, and Bartow, of course, is familiar with them. One of them is that, and you see that on our map, Doug, that you referred to earlier, commercial real estate is local. It always has been, and it always will be. But what drives commercial real estate as an industry, and it's a huge industry, is the job growth. So when the country's in a position of growing jobs, we're in a very good way. And of course, you're going to hear Bartow and I. We're going to sound like an economic development board for the state of Florida. But Bartow, you wrote an article about the Panama Canal, which we really found interesting because just a few weeks ago we had some representatives from Jacksonville and also Miami talking about what their ports meant to their economy. And, of course, it meant an awful lot in terms of jobs and growth and revenue for a lot of different industries that flow through the community. But you went on record as talking about the Panamax, the deep canal. So, and you're sitting in Ocala, an hour from each coast. I hate to be trite, but you need to enlighten us why you feel this canal is so important to the marketplace there where you are in Ocala, Florida.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I guess the big picture is Panamax. This is the term given to the expansion and the deepening of the Panama Canal, which will allow ships that are 3 times the current size to move goods and 3 times the amount of goods in and through the Panama Canal is a game changer, not only globally, but certainly will be for the state of Florida. It's kind of a couple analogies might be. It's the difference between having a dirt road and having a 6-lane highway. It's the difference between having a dial-up modem and broadband in terms of the velocity of goods that will be able to move through the economy and the efficiencies and ultimately how that will help drive down the cost of transportation and increase the flow of goods. And so, ports throughout the Southeast get it. They see the big picture. Large global companies get it and see the picture. And so we've been watching major companies make significant investments around the state of Florida in the port of Jacksonville and Miami, et cetera, as they are trying to figure out how to connect the dots with new supply chains and using Florida as a very strategic location in moving goods around the globe. And so Ocala simply will benefit from those initiatives, not every port in Florida is going to be geared up to accommodate the new size ships. But what that will do is that will enable the smaller ports to focus on other supply chains and grow their, for lack of better words, market share in specific trade routes. So what that looks like in Ocala, for instance, is we have firms like Federal Express and R&L Carriers, two well-known national global firms who are making significant investments in commercial real estate and in people in the Ocala market to benefit from that, to benefit from distribution into Jacksonville, Orlando, and the Tampa markets, and then markets to the north.
Bartow, we have in the state of Florida, we have 15 deep water seaports. So what you're saying is absolutely true, and some of the inland cities like Ocala are going to benefit because of the infrastructure that we have in Florida, and that is what the it's called Florida Enterprise. It's like the state chamber of commerce. They do brag that that state of Florida has the number one infrastructure in America, which is a pretty interesting claim when you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. And you're right, Jerry. We had a whole program on this, but this is interesting because I'm looking at the article, Bartow, and again, we're talking with Bartow McDonald, who's with Sperry Van Ness in Ocala, Florida. It's the Ocala Star Banner, and the article is printed on April 26th, the 13th. I guess I have a inquiry question. How do you get your next business lead? I'm sure there's past reputation, there's referrals, but also this kind of article must make you look like the guy to go to in regards to Ocala. So give me a little bit on how you get your leads and how you get business.
Well, I have no idea what types of activity an article like that may generate. Writing that article was partially selfish because there was a point where I didn't know much about Panamex, and as I traveled around the state, I realized I quickly needed to come up to speed. And really my hope in writing that was to help stimulate thinking and excitement about how Ocala as a community can benefit from these changes that are going on. But the last 7 years have not been easy in finding large tenants and
Sure.
figuring out how to bring buyers to communities. And so we've done a lot of out-of-the-box thinking in terms of how do we market our clients' properties and how do we get people excited about coming to our community. So, I have no idea what, if any, effect this article will have.
Well, I think it will be great, and again, it just adds to your very, very big credibility factor, and so I just want to say kudos to you for taking the time to write that article, and again, the Ocala Star Banner for printing it. One of the things, and when I met you down in Miami Beach for a big annual conference, Jerry, you can pipe in on this, but he was kind of like the superstar at a last auction that you did. And Jerry, why don't you preface that, and then we'll talk to Bartow in regards to his sale.
Be happy to. In fact, I wanted him to talk about that a little bit because Ocala was put on the map, Bartow, with a television appearance, a program that was put together by MNBC, and you appeared on that. So share with our listeners why in the world Ocala was on that television program, what the focus was, and what in the world you were doing there, why they wanted to interview you, and what your role was in fixing the problem.
Well, I guess it would have started probably 5 years ago when black Suburbans with black tinted windows pulled up to the global headquarters of Taylor Bean & Whitaker, one of the top 5 mortgage companies in the country at that time, and completely shut that down, that business down. They had a large, very expensive corporate headquarters in Ocala that was built by a gentleman who grew up in Ocala and wanted to make Ocala the home for this business. Unfortunately, the way he grew the business included a lot of fraud. So our community was, in shell shock with the closure of this business. It affected thousands of jobs locally, and was really traumatic. It was such a high-profile deal that it was the closure of that business was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And frankly, the owners of that building, it was a sale-leaseback type of a deal, so they had already sold the building to a group out of New York, had approached me a number of times to list it, and I really didn't want it. I said no probably 4 or 5 times because it was a high-profile deal, and I was kind of scared, actually, of taking it on. Anyway, what we knew after we decided to engage in the project, because I think really at the end of the day, it was an important asset to our community, and that, to me, is what I kept kind of coming back to, the importance of it for us in Ocala. But knowing that it was high profile, I did things like I reached out to people at Forbes and other business periodicals and kind of kept them in the loop about what was happening, because I thought it was an interesting story to see what would happen, what the next chapter, if you will, in this tragedy would look like. And they were a subprime.
They were a subprime lender. That was the business they were in.
Yeah. So at some point, I got a phone call from the folks at MSNBC. They were running a show. They wanted to do a story on the Taylor Bean and Whitaker experience, and they wanted to feature this building. And so we met with them and hosted them here, and my moment of bright fame on national television was just a few minutes on NBC's American Greed.
Well, I saw that show.
The end of that story is, of course, that building was then taken and put into an auction event that we were involved in at the last quarter of last year, Doug.
Yep.
And Bartow did, in fact, sell that building, and now hopefully some more jobs will be coming back to the Ocala market, because what was it, 75,000 square feet, Bartow? Is that?
Yeah, just under 75,000 square feet. Yeah, the really cool story is that we utilized the Sperry Van Ness auction. We had a number of people, looking at it. It was ultimately purchased for cash by the owner and CEO of R&L Carriers, a large global company. And interestingly enough, as I ended up meeting after we closed the deal, I ended up meeting a lot of his top executives and people throughout the company. They all referred to the TV show. They were, "Oh, you're the guy that was on television." So I guess one of my takeaways is you just never know what, at the end of the day, influences somebody to pull the trigger on a real estate deal. And the wonderful thing is they are hiring hundreds and hundreds of people in Ocala, and I don't think there's any greater satisfaction than watching that happen and knowing that what you've been working on is really doing something great for the community you live and love.
That's a wonderful story, because that's it's just a side benefit of your town of Ocala and bringing all those people in, and you were the one who pushed it. So congrats. Do you have any couple of properties that you want to mention that's in your area you want to talk about that our listeners might want to know?
We do have another auction that's coming up here in about 4 weeks, Jerry. Is that right?
That's correct. End of May, the bidding begins.
Yeah, so I was able to get another one of our clients' properties in there. It's a 50,000 square foot building. It's more of a business park. 4 different buildings right next to I-75. It's originally purchased for about $7 million. 3 of the 4 buildings were completely finished for office space. And Jerry, I think the list, we've got the opening bid at that with no reserve at $1,250,000. So I'd love for a company to see that as a great opportunity. It's a little under, I think it's $18 a square foot for finished professional office space. That's going to be a terrific deal, and I hope that we'll see that a new owner come into that and start hiring people.
Well, Bartow, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, I'm not too hard to find. If you Google Bartow McDonald, I'll pop up in a couple places. I'd always refer people back to our svnflorida.com website as well.
Very good. And one more time, do you have a telephone number if somebody wants to get a hold of you?
Sure. My phone number is 352-274-3800.
Very good. Well, Bartow, Jerry talks a great deal about you and your professionalism. I want to thank you for being on the show this Friday, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right. Take care, Bartow.
Thank you, Bud.